If they had been able to perceive and solve their problem, they might have been able to avoid destruction. Of course, they too they'd have to remember to re-examine themselves periodically. But what was the problem? You said we had two incompatible characteristics. What were they? He made a rustling noise that could have been a sigh, but that didn't seem to come from his mouth or his throat. You are intelligent, he said. That's the newer of the two characteristics, and the one that you might have to put to work to save yourselves. You are potentially one of the most intelligent species we've found, though your focus is different from ours. Still, you had a good start in the life sciences and even in genetics. Well, what's the second characteristic? You are hierarchical. That's the older and more entrenched characteristic. We saw it in your closest animal relatives and in your most distant ones. It's a terrestrial characteristic. When human intelligence served it instead of guiding it, when human intelligence did not even acknowledge it as a problem, but took pride in it or did not notice it at all. That was like ignoring a cancer. I think your people did not realize what a dangerous thing they were doing. I couldn't have known the actual pain of being pulled away from this practice. I probably did know that I needed an absolute return to the womb in order to be changed. I know I've described needing a cocoon in which to be mashed into a pulp and reshaped into a butterfly. I have not been wanting the levels of power or the positions that I've been put in, and not been really understanding the positions that others seek to have. But I couldn't know the rebirth that would be required for me to remember how much sense Octavia Butler's work meant to me. To be non-hierarchical, to be non-human centered, non-capitalist, non-homophobic, non-transphobic, non-racist, non-classist, non-casteist, non-ableist, non-xenophobic, non-exploitive, non-violent, non. Where was the space for saying yes? I was realizing that there might be literally too much of a benefit of my participation in these systems to really divert from them. It felt difficult to see how the contrast, if I allowed my eyes to orient to the vision, could guide way to a bigger picture. Sort of like in 3D work, where the amalgam looks strange, but if you use the glasses, it begins to bring dimensionality to the image. I want to see the opportunity. I want to remember the opportunity in the contrast. I bled for 6 days, allowing this dialogue to flow through me. I waited for another 6 days for the words to shape, for my mouth to ready itself to speak. I came up with this assumption. What holds primary, secondary, tertiary, and so on function in any one person's life determines what they will be called to lead. I named these color wheels the rule of thirds, sixth sense, and 12 tribes. The smaller one seemed to also be representative of my daughter Aya, the middle one of my son Compton, and the last or largest of my 13-year-old Math. I cannot believe I almost missed the opportunity to mate with the Oankali that Octavia describes. I was simultaneously caught in my own genetic programming and in survival mode. I was so caught up that I nearly forgot to use this precious time to unlearn my patterns of behavior. I'm so glad that I needed this process enough that I required it of myself. And I love being able to grow into what I have felt changing me. I think I require a physical shaking when learning is deep. It makes me think of the moaning women, and when my mother would leave me to the care of my brother and grandmother so that she could go down to moan. I wonder if that's where she got so much of her strength. It's close to what I'm imagining this process has been for me, of crying, bleeding, painting, fasting, praying, and writing. I started with the blood because Spirit asked for it. My cycle started, and they told me use the lunar energy. I stayed up late. I rested well at night. I was intentional with that time and with my own moon. And then the color wheels that have been holding questions for me as of late came up, so I stayed with them. The growing complexity and the lack of consistency in my hand when I lay paint on a surface was interesting. The red, the yellow, and blue, though constants, still appear quite different in each wheel. And then, as I was mixing color, allowing for the inconsistencies really had me wondering about the inevitable change that was happening in every area of my life, and that happens in every area of life living, that requires this centeredness that we've talked about, that requires an openness to different design strategies. It seems as if every practice is embedded with nuance because nuance is begging to be noticed. I want to be comfortable with the nuance. I think that staying centered, focused, grounded, intentional about the larger possibility for not just myself, and maybe not myself first sometimes. Maybe the vision for what's possible for existence or myself or any other thing that I choose to focus on. Maybe the focus on that possible best well-being is where I can find the comfort in dealing with the changes, with the contrasts, with moving from primary to secondary to tertiary, from moving through using the rule of thirds, my sixth sense, calling on the 12 tribes. There's so much to hold. There's so much to behold. I am so much to be held. The thing that I kept feeling as I was painting was, please, in all of this, let my blood be seen. And I think that's about my mortality. And I think that's about seeing my own, exposing my own, and seeing and making space for all else to also express their